Things are certainly hotting up in the model railway world, especially for TT120. Heljan, for instance, about to release something in this scale. All shall be revealed at Hornby Key Model World. And along with a certain gentleman who is a great friend of mine and someone we all know, Mr. Simon Kohler. He'll be signing his new book. And I caught up with him the other day to have a little chat about that. Plier him to get him between the sheets over brews, news and views about his new book, Hornby Model Railways, the past, the present and the future. When the excitement died down in Modeloco fashion, it's something new for me getting that webcam out, plugging it in and having a bash. Because let's face it, that's what this hobby's all about, isn't it? Having some serious fun, and we certainly had some fun, seriously. Here's part one. Hello.
There's the man.
I don't believe it.
How are you?
I'm all right, Simon.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Gosh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. You're looking to the heavens.
Yeah, I've got to try and look at the camera, but I'm looking at you see.
Right.
So I've got a webcam because I'm used to recording. So I've got.
Right. Got it.
It's so strange. I mean, I'm just a guy that decided to go for TT, and here you are, you know.
It's enjoyment. You can lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Modelling railways is what it's all about. It's meant to be fun. If you're getting frustrated, just walk away from it, have a cup of tea, and then go back to it again.
Talking of a brew, I've still got this. Look.
Huh?
The tea.
Well done.
You remember I asked you cheekily for one. You know,
yeah, you did.
Going through. And of course, another thing you're involved with, the Boar's Head, my favourite Skaledale pub in Louth.
Yeah, the Mucky Duck.
Lower Skaledale, if you don't mind me coining the phrase, is a bit missing this year from the announcements, which was a shame because I like the resin buildings. But there we go. We've got to fuel the passion.
Agreed.
Simon, you haven't got a Hornby mug.
I've got Flying Scotsman, the Bresley collection.
I've got a Flying Scotsman pen. A guy made me and sent me it. One of the kind followers of the channel.
Oh, I've seen him.
Yeah, he said that. And he said, I hope you like it. Forever grateful. So I can use it for the pipettes and all that. And
yeah. I can't quite see that guitar. It's not an Ovation, is it?
I've got two options.
Have you really?
Yeah, that's a Martin. When lockdown hit, things had to change. Like yourself, getting out the manufacturing side or the brand side, then it opens up other things. I had 2 subscribers. TT120 came along. There were no voices out there, so I thought, right, I'll put a video out, and boom. Here we are. It's sold out of TT, and I've got the first signed copy of Simon's new book. Only joking.
It will be released, I think it's the 25th of April. So, yes. And that is about, it's the trials, tribulations of bringing a new system into the market.
Yeah.
And it's really trying to highlight to people that, you know, these things don't happen overnight. And you plan. And if you want to know how you put a brand together, how you get it to the market, something that is unique, the book, I'm unashamedly plugging it because the book will explain that. It isn't a me scenario.
No.
It shows how a team of people pull together to bring it to the market, but also how you can take things sometimes for granted and you miss the obvious, but how you take steps to make it right. Before Hornby announced TT, which was October 22.
Yeah.
We'd been working on it since 2019. Our first meeting, Hornby was rather at Sandwich, in the Sandwich offices. It takes time and the planning and all the rest of it and the engineering. Don't kid myself, I'm not up at 4:15 in the mornings anymore. You know, I have the clients I like to work with.
Good.
And that helps. And you know, in between time, you know, doing a bit of writing. And it's the TT book came about purely by accident, because when I first left Hornby, I have an office at the bottom of the garden, and I was sitting in the office. It was sunny. Somebody had mentioned something about TT. I thought, no, they got that wrong. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll just write a couple of articles about what TT was all about.
Yeah.
And it just kept on going, because you can't just drop in. You have to give a background. Why TT? Why did where'd that come from?
It grows, doesn't it? It grows.
And it grew, you see.
Yeah.
And and the more I got into it, I mean, it took probably to get it all down. It probably took the summer and some more.
Yeah.
To get it done in between stuff, you see, and then picking it up and then having another go.
It was like starting this with you. I thought, I don't really know what to ask. A lot of it's been asked. And I thought, I don't want to repeat that. But you open that gateway, it just grows and grows. And then you think, I need to ask that, I need to ask that. And you can write a million things down, and then we get lost in conversation.
I reckon you and I could do a talk off. But I think it just happened. And then it was an opportunity, or to put to bed some of the rumours and some of the misconceptions of what TT and Hornby TT was all about. Some of the comments, some of the criticisms I've received, legitimate criticism.
Yeah.
But I was keen to just illustrate that we all make mistakes, and when you're doing something new from the start, then you will occasionally go down the wrong path, and then you've got to come back. You've got to admit, you say, "Oh, got it wrong. Yeah, that's a shame, but that's one side," and move on. Something will always come round and bite you when you'd least expect it. I remember.
Sod's law.
Well, it is. I'm trying to avoid those sort of expressions, but no, you're right. I mean, I remember, and it wasn't Hornby; it was another manufacturer. They produced a really superb model. What let it down was the motor.
Yeah.
And they had a whole batch of locos with bad motors. Hornby's had that. Hornby has had that in the past, where a motor has failed. It's been a bad batch. You can't pick that up, or QA as people call it these days.
You sent me a decoder. Remember that? That caused, by all means, quite a bit of a stir, but it was just that, I was going through trouble at the time, but I ordered as soon as it was available, more or less.
You can do all the testing and it all works great. Say, right, press the button, off we go. It's every manufacturer has the same problem. The minute it goes out there, something crops up.
Yeah.
That you didn't know was going to happen.
You've seen the guitar behind me. You can practice at home all day long, but as soon as you get on that stage, I suppose it's like taking your layout from bedroom to exhibition. As soon as you get there, you turn it on, and oh my goodness, the Wi-Fi is not as good as I thought it was. Things are linking in. It's not running like it should.
And that's exactly what it is. You learn and you get better. I will also add to this that working with some very talented people as well, people who, if you like, shared the vision, wanted to do the best job possible, came in with ideas.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? We can do that, etc. And I think that was the thing. No, and it wasn't everybody at Hornby. There was a designer I've worked with for a good number of years. Even before we had our first meeting, I'd spoken to a chap called Sean, told him about TT, the idea, needed to sort out the style guide, the packaging, how I could see it, and all the rest of it. And he went off and did his thing. But, we would have meetings at Hornby, and it would be, well, we thought about doing this, how about doing that? And it was a big team effort. Yeah. Everybody got involved. And that was the thing. That's the nice thing. It isn't just one person.
No.
And that's the beauty of it. Some great people for me. Some really, really clever people.
You can see that. And even in the names that you've called things, like Skaledale, for instance.
Yeah, well,
it conjures up a really nice feeling of countryside, but it gets all the information out there, doesn't it?
That came into my head while I was having a shower.
So that's one of yours? Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was it. It was looking for a name for a brand name,
Yeah.
and it just sort of evolved because there's Skeldsman and Dale or whatever, and a couple of other things, and I just and I just thought scale Dale, yeah,
Yeah.
as you say, country. I mean that a lot of the inspiration for those buildings you have there, certainly with the Mucky Duck, was from my hometown, as it were.
Yeah, which is it?
Louth in Leeds.
Yeah, Louth. Yeah.
Lots of inspiration, but I mean, all every building, and this is one of the this is one of the educational things you can get from model railways is looking at buildings as you're walking around.
Yeah,
you think, oh, that's nice, and you look up, and that's the other thing. You look up, you see the roof lining and things like that, and
the St Andrew's Church.
St Andrews.
And I've had difficulty locating a picture of that.
Well, it's if you look at St Andrew's Church, Stewton, which is STEWTON
in Louth. Yeah. Again,
it's a hamlet just outside Louth.
Yeah,
that's St Andrew's Church, and that's a church.
Yeah, love the churches. Yeah,
and it's a beautiful church. I think its history goes back to Saxon times, but you can look it up on Google.
And that does inspire. You place that on a baseboard and a few other things, and you start to get a good feel because it can soon look crowded and cluttered. There's something else I'd like to touch on. I think that love and passion you've got for the hobby gives you that extra grit and determination to push forward, do you think? You haven't just disappeared when the paychecks stop from Hornby. You're everywhere, aren't you? You're at exhibitions.
I love it. I loved meeting people. Your enthusiasm, your excitement, your passion, is something to behold, and it's
kind.
And it's great to see, because I was talking to somebody about this a little while ago. That I was at an exhibition, and we had just launched a Select DCC unit.
Yeah. Sorry, did that come before the Elite?
Yes. Yes.
So you just
a year or so before the Elite.
Yeah.
Although they both were announced at the same time.
Right.
But I found, of all places, I was at Leeds Castle doing a demonstration, and phone rang, and it was my wife, and she said, "Where are you?" I said, "Leeds Castle, got a show." You never told me. I mean, I hadn't. This was probably, I think, my fourth weekend on a trot that I was away at a show.
Yeah.
And it as I say, it dawned on me that hang on a minute, Simon. These were the days when I used to pack the car up, product, etc., go to a show, set up my little table and all the rest of it, and talk to people. And it was great. And it was, love what you've done there, love this, love that, etc. They say, yeah, but what are we doing wrong? And that's one of the reasons why I was there. It's nice to get praise, but what are we doing wrong?
Yes.
And then you can go back on the Monday morning, sit in a 9 o'clock meeting with the rest of the managers and say, do you know what? We're letting ourselves down on the packaging, but we're doing this, we're doing that. We need to, I've not heard anything like that. No.
And do you think that you always get an honest answer when you ask those?
I think you've got to know the client, as it were.
Yeah.
And the best ones were the ones who would come up and they'd want to fight.
Yeah. So they
want a verbal fight.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you think, right, okay.
What's your gripe?
Yeah, I can see you're upset.
Yeah.
What is the problem? Okay, we got it with you. Right, give me it. I'll take it back. Could be a nightmare, especially if it was a big event. You get them fixed, send them back. You were the best thing since sliced bread. It's the whole point of going to exhibitions. The alternative is to say, oh, well, just send it to Hornby and they'll see what they can do.
You emailed me about my little Flying Scotsman back here when you were on a plane out to Germany or somewhere at 5 or 6 in the morning, and you still took that effort, and that showed me that there was something more to you than just a job. That was it. It goes in, and once it's in there, you don't forget that.
It was something I learned when I was in retail. You know, I think everybody knows that I worked in a model shop in Northampton for 7 years. You don't want to stand behind a counter and have an argument. That's not what it's all about.
No.
It is. Okay, you've got a problem. What can we do to solve it? It takes away all the anger.
One of the questions I'm going to ask you is, will that little bookshelf that I see behind you finally become a model railway?
The idea is yes, one day.
It'd be great.
It is finding the time. You know, my wife keeps telling me I should retire, but I can't retire. I don't want to retire.
You said about model railways, it's amazing what it teaches us, the skills, and this is one of them. Learning about the ego, the pride, all the spiritual side while I've been developing. After you said you could even fit it on a windowsill, I didn't even know I could paint. So there, your creative mind, flared mind, and the wiring that goes under that with all the lighting is incredible.
Yeah, it's terrific.
It keeps you in check. The ego wants to grab this and grab that, but, you know, the unexpected things happen, like talking to Simon Kohler.
No, it's fine. You know, I've never made a secret of my phone number.
That is rare, isn't it? Do you not think that, especially at your level, to have that fearless sort of thing to say, right, here's my number, come and speak to me?
That is the only way you're going to find things out, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can live in an ivory tower, and here I am at the top of my house, looking out over Margate, etc. But you know, at the end of the day, the people who bought Hornby product were paying my wages. And it was in my interest that if we were doing something wrong, then we needed to know so we could put it right.
Yeah.
It wasn't a competition. It wasn't an us and them. You know, everybody would do the best job they could do. And they do that at Hornby. Nobody in this industry ever wakes up one morning and thinks, do you know what? I'm going to make a really crap product.
Yeah, you're saying that.
They wake up and think, this is going to be the ultimate product. This is the one that, is going to eclipse everything else. And that is the attitude. If they go wrong, the next best thing then is to try and get it right.
Yeah.
In the days of Model Rail Express, people would write in and, explain about their product, their layout, or an issue or whatever. Anyway, Pat Hammond sent me a note and said, look, I've had this from this guy who's really angry with Hornby. He tried to fit a decoder into an M7 and it just won't fit.
Yeah.
And he says he's damaged the loco trying to do it and it's all Hornby's fault. So I said, right, okay, have a word with him, ask him to send it to me, personally to me.
Right.
The loco, the M7 came in. Without a word of a lie, it looked as if it had been through World War III. I mean, it was destroyed.
Yeah.
There was nothing you could do with it. Hang on a second. I've got a little doggy trying to get in.
Right.
Come in.
I thought you were going to get me the M7 out then.
No. So, sorry about that. Yeah. So we got an M7 out of stock. Emma fitted the decoder, sent it off to the guy.
Mm.
We got such a superb response from the guy who thought Hornby were the bee's knees because it had a complaint, it had been sorted, he was happy. We could have easily sent the model back and said, sorry, you destroyed this, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
That's not going to win you any customers or any favours. So it was replaced. To me, that's customer service, establishing the quality of your brand.
Moving on a little bit, what do you think of the 2025 announcements that have just come out? I'm a little bit less as enthusiastic as I was in the previous 4 years. I don't think there's as much innovation. I'd say it's a little bit more for the DC modeler.
Are we talking TT or are we talking Hornby in general?
TT 120.
I'd say progressing. Definitely, with Hornby carries on investing the way it is, there'll be others coming on board that I'm convinced within the next few months, if not sooner. Revolution put the toe in the water, or putting the toe in the water. They'll do well with those wagons, and hopefully that will give them an insight into investing a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's another good point. They do reach out and ask and say stuff, so that's good as well.
And I think people are looking over the fence and seeing who's doing what, and maybe we should have a go. And I think you will see the variety will increase. But the whole point is, with 00, there's so much coming out and bombarding people.
Yeah.
The fact that, TT 120 is in its early stages, people can anticipate, they can have, it'd be great if they could do this, great if they could do that. And eventually it will happen, but you're not being bombarded with so many new items that you're so confused, what should I buy, what shouldn't I buy, or do I buy everything?
And the models that are coming in.
It's coming in bit by bit, which from your personal financial point of view is great. Yeah. Now, you may be thinking, I wish they did a GWR pannier. Yeah, they will do eventually. Yeah. But at the moment, no. But there are other things that you can be modelling. They've got the Terrier coming out. That Terrier is going to be beautiful. Lovely little loco.
That's another Sam design, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
All the ones that are coming on, they're going down into more of a smaller range where you would find it more difficult, I would assume, to fit sound, to fit power banks, and they would probably want the power bank more, as I found with the Class 08, for instance. And that was my little bit of concern. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
No.
Actually, I don't know.
No.
It's quite tight.
Yeah.
I would imagine in there.
But there's some good bits in there too. How long do you think the new smaller decoders are away from coming out?
Well, hopefully they're not too far away because, there's more and more demand for them.
And I do dual scale, so I've looked at both, and both seem to have drawn back a little bit from previous years. And I've seen some things come through that obviously were a part of when you were there. For instance, the Flirt sets and stuff that have just come out.
I went over to Switzerland, to Stadler's, to see these Flirts being made. The factory and the way they were putting them together was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
But that was 2019. Of course, came back, had the drawings and all the rest of it. And then what happened? Of course, we had COVID, which really chucked a spanner in the works. And then the actual train itself, had its own issues, trying to condense it down to something 76 times smaller.
Yeah, and got all the big gubbins in as well.
Get all, because it's ever so easy to miss bits off and all the rest of it. And I think, I have to say, and I'm not blowing smoke, but your presentation, your preview of it was excellent because it really showed what the Flirt was all about. The sound was amazing. The way it ran, all the little bits.
Yeah,
it really was just like the real thing, and I'm most impressed.
When you're listening to it, running around, it has a meditative sort of effect, and I think other people have seen that.
Yeah, and I know they work very closely with Anglia on it as well.
Yeah,
and Anglia were able to allow them access to do the sounds and all the rest of it, which really has come through, and it's I have to say, it's a fabulous job.
There's a lot of tech gone into it as well.
Yeah.
And obviously the app has to tie up with that. There are a few little niggles that are there. I'm sure they'll be all ironed out. The small things, but nevertheless, they're there because you've got like a double header going on within the model.
Yeah.
I don't know that bogey driven at both ends, you're relying on it moving. So I was really interested in this because of that as well. I love that, like steam generators, like TT120. And I just wondered, looking at that, everything leads to something else, doesn't it? So I can see now probably why TT are introducing that railroad sort of range. I won't call it railroad, but a budget model to get people in. But it's just, I hope it doesn't rob Peter to pay Paul too much for all the innovations that have come out. And I pointed out that the first Black 5 wasn't that much cheaper than the Steam Gen model with the lights on.
No.
That's 2014, I think that came out. It's all swings and roundabouts.
It is. Yeah. No, I agree.
When you looked at TT120, did it cross your mind to think, why don't we just go HO? I was asked a very similar question to that yesterday. Back in the, I think it was the 70s, Lima had a go at producing some British outline HO. Yeah.
And I was asked, if it had been a success, would Hornby have gone HO, or would we have gone to TT? I think the problem is that 00 has got such a strong hold in the UK. Trying to introduce HO would be even more difficult than trying to introduce something that's totally new like TT120.
Right.
I would have difficulty in generating the interest.
Yeah.
With people, 00 is so well established. I mean, it's 80 years.
Right. Okay. So that then leads on to the question: Will there become a point where DC blanking plugs in models as they come out of the box will ever just go over to straight DCC fitted? And so it becomes an option then. You buy the blanking plug, take the bull by the horns, then commit totally to DCC.
Will that ever happen? There will possibly come a time when, with so many people, because I mean, DCC is a better system.
Yeah.
And once, I mean, I've now alienated about 50% of the model railway fraternity, but I mean, the thing is, there's more you can do with it. The issue you have at the moment, which HM7000 is addressing, is the price, is the cost.
Yeah.
Now 7000 has gone a long way to remove that. So I could say, I fancy having a go at DCC. Oh, okay, well, just buy a decoder. You got an iPad, free download. At the most, it's going to cost you what, 60 quid for a sound decoder, 70 quid for a sound decoder.
Yeah.
Puts it in your loco. If you don't like it, well, you can take it out and needs be, you can sell it. Yeah,
and a Gen 1 iPad Pro you can pick up for 75 quid now, like new, on eBay, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a good power adapter, which I always recommend. Go for the Hornby one. Go for a 4 milliamp one output, so you can run a few trains. Download the app for free, and you're away. But there's still a lot of fear in people that somehow it's all a bit mysterious.
Well, I mean, Hornby has gone a lot, and I was a big advocate of this.
Yeah.
Going back to pre-select days and all the rest of it. When Hornby launched 01, it didn't have any. It was designed, just take two wires. Perhaps a little bit too simplistic.
Yeah.
When 0 finished and other brands came in, it seemed to amass a little bit of a black art about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of myth, which put a lot of people off, and not only the modeler, but a lot of retailers as well. The beauty with the Select, rightly or wrongly, was we blew all that out of the water.
Yeah.
It's not black magic. This is straightforward.
Magic.
Put that into you, turn it on, press the buttons, off you go. Yeah. And that was what the Select was all about. The big mistake I made, and I hold my hand up, was that with the decoder and with the Elite, when we first released the Elite, it wasn't NMRA compliant. Compliant.
Yeah.
That was my fault, because I underestimated the strength of the NMRA. That is why later the next batch of decoders were NMRA compliant, and the Elite was upgraded to be NMRA. You couldn't do that with the Select because of the way it worked. but it still didn't blow your locos up. It still didn't fuse all the light. It worked your trains beautifully. It still does.
In your defence as well, things take a time, don't they? And then we find a sort of a universal way to do things. So you need that universal sort of.
You do.
That one is going to be this. CV2 is going to be that.
Remember what I said? Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
KISS. Always, do the simple things best.
Yes.
That was probably one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given by a gentleman called Stan McCullum, who was my first sales director when I worked for Hammond Morgan, which was part of Hornby.
Yeah.
So, keep it simple and do the simple things best.
Yeah.
And you should be okay. Don't try and be clever because that will always end in tears.
Yeah.
You're not clever. Don't try and be clever. I'm not clever. And I keep bumbling along, to fool some of the people some of the time and all that. But in fact, if you think back, there are very few clever people in the world. I've met 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was going to ask you about Class 108 DMU, for instance. Very successful with Blackpool. Yeah. And I said when I did a video called Simon's Seat, and we chatted about that a bit, didn't we, once? And I thought that would be good because of its running and it's small and it's end to end. You don't need to turn it round. I don't know why Hornby never really embraced that. Or maybe in the railroad range or railroad junior, which sort of confused me a bit at the time. Didn't really know what the junior bit meant.
Junior? I think we had railroad and then we had railroad plus.
That's it. And it said railroad junior or it had junior on it.
I think that may have been after my time.
It was.
Can't answer that one. What happened with regards to Hornby was that you've got to remember that from the 80s through to roughly the mid-90s, Hornby was focusing more on toys and dolls and what we used to call, I'm not sure you can say it these days, but toys for girls, toys for boys.
Yeah.
So investing in Hornby, which really was the brand that was probably paying for everything else, as was Scale Extra, had very, very little investment. Very little investment.
Yeah.
I had to do quite a bit of smoke and mirrors putting a range together in those days.
Activity again.
And then things changed. We got new management, got a chap in called Peter Newey, who wasn't involved in the business at all, in the hobby business, but knew what Hornby stood for and got rid of all the toys and focused on what Hornby is known for, Hornby and Scale Extra.
Yeah.
And that's when things started to improve with Hornby. But then it had to play catch up. Now, we'd obtained some of the old Airfix Dapple tooling, and that was being manufactured in Far East.
Yeah.
And that was that proved very successful, which gave us a breathing space to produce the first brand new, totally all singing, all dancing, fabulous looking, lots of detail Merchant Navy, which was launched in 2000. New millennium, new beginning, if you like, for Hornby.
Yeah.
And really anything after, any loco after Merchant Navy really does have, it's got DNA of the Merchant Navy in it, because every model was improved, but we had to play catch up because the models we had were, some of them by the 2000 were 30 years old, 20 years old.
So and choices.
Yeah, and they showed it.
Yeah.
And they were showing it. We had companies like Bachmann, and earlier on it had been Lehman, really stealing the march. And Hornby was considered making toy trains, and that was the other battle we had to do. Convince people we're a model company.
Yeah.
And we had to focus on upgrading. So rightly or wrongly, initially, first locos we worked on were steam locos.
Yeah.
Merchant Navy, Coronation, Black 5, some of all the classics, if you like.
The Black 5 it's a that's the first locomotive I bought when I got back on board. It still runs like it was brand new.
Yeah. Well, 5-pole motor, skew wound, only eclipsed really by the Black 5 that was released a year or so ago.
Exactly. So we focused on the steam and then started to work on the diesels. But you see, the world of diesels compared to the world of steam locos is a lot narrower. Steam locos, you've got what now 200 years of steam locos, and then you really only had in essence, one could say 50, 60 years of diesels. And what were they? Oh, 37, 31, 47s. Yeah.
Later on, 66s, 67s. So the key backbone of the diesel electric rail motive power in this country were based around that small range of locos. So in those days, it was looking for another, a diesel loco, not to duplicate what, Bachmann were producing, etc.
Yeah.
Had to look for something. So, I was trying to think, 31. The 31 was a nightmare of a loco because it's got so many different variations. But we had all, put all those together. That was a superb model. The 60, the 4 Vet, which was a little bit of a disaster, only to be rectified these last couple of years, and that's now as it should have been. But when we was faced with manufacturing issues and the desire to try and streamline the amount of detail that went on to models. And at the same time, the manufacturer was changing hands, and there was lots of issues with that particular model, which was a shame. But I say now it's a superb model. So, those issues have been corrected.
Yeah. What bits of the hobby do you like the most?
The buzz one gets from sitting down on a Friday afternoon and everybody's gone home.
Yeah.
And you're planning out, the next few years models. And you think, oh, how about, look to why did we do the hush hush? That's a stunning loco. From that very idea to actually it coming through and being produced, and more importantly, selling. That was always the terrific buzz. I'll tell you something about the new steam that is being used at the moment. I went to, it was at the German Toy Fair quite a few years ago. I saw a Toy Thomas loco trundling around with this looked like steam mist coming out.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's good.
It is.
I wonder we could put that in a loco. Anyway, when I came back, I ordered one of these locos and gave it to the then Hornby development engineer, and who looked at it and said, yeah, it's good. Yeah, good idea. And nothing ever happened. And there were things happening. But that was when I went off on my enforced sabbatical, as I always call it. And
could you put a year on that as well?
2014. A few years later, I'm back at Hornby. We have a new Hornby development manager.
Yeah.
And he's picked up on this. And it's Carl. He spent time fiddling with it.
Brilliant.
Getting it right.
Yeah.
Breadboard stuff. Yeah, that's looking good. Then working with the sound engineers and getting it to link. So you've got the motion, the steam, the chuff.
Fabulous.
Working in sync, developing it so that with a little bit of cleverness, now have everything in sync. at a fair price, at a good price. And you think that's the thrill you get when you see that working.
The brilliant. Yeah.
There was a time because Hornby used to get its sound units. This is going back to 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
Used to get sound units from ESO. And there was an issue trying to get these sound units.
Oh, yeah, ESU. Yeah.
Yes, ESU. And I, out of a fit of pique, I said, it can't be beyond the wit of man for us to produce something. You know, it can't be that unique.
Track sound.
Yeah, and that's what we, TTS, and that's how that came about. And it started as, well, we'll do it as a generic sound. So the sound engineer at the time, he said, well, I reckon I can do something. And he put something together, and it wasn't quite in sync, but the sound was there. And he said, where do you get the sound from? He said, oh, I've been able to pick it up here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, well, could it be, could you have a tornado sound? Yeah, I can do that. Oh, well, did you do that? What about Duchess? Yeah, I can do that. I said, so we don't need to go generic. We could be specific.
Yeah.
And that's how the TTS decoders started to come through.
Into the railroad range, didn't they?
Into the railway. Well, the decision there was, I didn't want it to go into the main range. The TTS decoders were never meant to replace the ESO decoders. No. They were an alternative. Yeah. They were a budget alternative.
Yes.
So it made sense to slip them into the railroad range and then move them into the main range as they became more accepted.
And the Elite, when I first got back on board, that was great. I went straight for that. And at the time, there was a promise of maybe some block detection that Hornby would develop, and that went off the radar. The TTS decoders got through and done, but for block detection, it never quite came to the fore with ExpressNet.
No, with Railmaster,
yes,
there was that looking for loco detection.
That's it.
And that was being worked on quite extensively. It was a system that did work, and I saw it working.
Yeah.
My concern was it took too many wires.
I'm with you. Right. Got too complicated. Because it were going to be sensors, wasn't it?
And that's sensible, but there were too many wires shooting here, there, and everywhere. Which, of course, when you start looking at Bluetooth, then you don't need so many wires. So, maybe, and I'm just saying that maybe at a later date with the HM7000 and using Bluetooth, you'll be able to try and get this loco detection with the minimum of fuss.
Yeah.
So loco detection is feasible. It's a little bit fussy for Joe Public, the average guy.
Yes.
I work on the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid.
I have iTrain, but I've not really even delved into it yet. It's a very big leap. That's what a lot of people want. They want to get up and running. It was a shame it didn't go to block detection, and now HM7000, that's with the 2025 releases, feels a little bit that's stalled and it's gone back to producing maybe more of a railroad range for TT. And I just wonder if there were different budgets going to different things.
You'll always have people who have different ideas and how they see a range evolving and developing. You have to accept that. And I think, those are the sort of questions really, you want to ask, Martin and possibly Carl.
Yeah. It's not been as easy to get through to as you were. And I'm not one to push myself, as some do, on people. If you send an email and you send it twice and people don't get back to you, then I think, okay, I'll take the message. You were there and you said, yeah, let's talk, let's speak. If you ever want to, just call. Here's my number. That's not there now, I don't feel.
Next time I see Martin, I'll pass on the message.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, my problem when it comes to emails, I'm OCD. You know, I see them, I need to get them answered. I need to move them. I worked with a lovely girl called Montana Horan, who featured in the TV series and worked in Hornby.
I wanted to touch on that. When she got herself sort of going a bit and you both got together, it was great. And I think people were skeptical. I was a little at first, you know, this bright-eyed, smiling face. But then when she went, you know, I do miss that. I wish you could get you both back together and on an interview on a Zoom call. I'd love to do that. But yeah, great. She worked really well with you, really well.
We got on well. I mean, I'm not going to say we got on well 100% of the time.
Oh no.
You know, I could be difficult. She could perhaps be equally difficult. But at the end of the day, we had one passion, and that was really Hornby to make it work.
Yeah,
and she was brilliant. I mean, I used to drive her nuts. She was brilliant at these spreadsheets that Hornby used. It's a little bit like a Bible, which covers everything to do with a model, down to the pack size, what the pack is, instructions, etc. Everything, the price, the cost, the trade price, etc. It's a huge list.
Yeah,
it covers different markets. There's so many different formulas in it. And I'm okay with about 6 columns. After that, I get lost. This was enormous, and she was brilliant.
Yeah,
and of course, you know, I didn't help matters much. That when we're putting a range together or finalising a range, I may take something out or put something in, and then may just mention it to her. And you know, it was one of those things so much easier to mention than to actually do. Sometimes she wasn't too happy with me.
So yeah, you've got what I can pick up on as a creative mind. It sees no boundaries. It's like, oh, can we do this? You know, I think your next thing, well, let's get steam generators in TT. You know, and we can laugh. We all laugh about.
Well, if you ever speak to Carl Hart, you ask him, because I did when we did the TT. Yeah. I said, yes, it's good. Sounds good. When can we have steam? I promise you, one day that will happen.
Wow.
It has to happen. You know, with miniaturization and all the rest of it, it will happen.
You need a certain amount of water in there, don't you?
I mean, basically, it's an atomizer.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's as simple as that. And you don't need a huge amount of water.
For me, people couldn't really get the head round that it wasn't oil-based, that it was cool. It was cool running. They couldn't get their head around it at first. And I said, no, you just put tap water in. If you want to put it through your filter system, if you think you've got really hard water or soft or whatever it is, do that. But no, just put tap water in and away you go. It's cool running. There's no heat generated.
No, there isn't. It's just, it's a vibration.
And a good decision maybe too, not having it coming out too low down, above, just out of the smoke.
Well, interesting. Next time, I'd say, if you ever speak to Cole, because I did say it's nice coming out of the chimney, but is there any chance it can come out of the cylinders as well?
You can just see his stress. You can see his face tighten. Yeah.
Nobody's going to produce something that's not going to sell.
So long for now, we'll be seeing you when Casey comes rolling by again with a steaming porter and a smoking stack.
So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the new book by Simon Kohler entitled One Size Suits All. It's a very clever title, that. Hornby TT120, The Journey So Far.
Terrific. Well done.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Casey Jones, you never have to guess. When you hear a tooting of the whistle, it's a Casey at the throttle of the Cannonball Express. Casey Jones, steaming and rolling. Casey Jones, you never have to guess. When you hear a tooting of the whistle, it's a Casey at the throttle of the Cannonball